So in the last episode, we talked about the basics of TCP, like what is a handshake, the loss recovery options, and had Chris explaining those things to us. But I really want to drive this point that I'm making home by showing you where you use these things, what tools you actually use this in. So I have Chris back here. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Ben. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me, man.
And what we're gonna do is we're going to show you actually what a handshake looks like again. But also, we're going to look at Nmap, one of the tools that a lot of hackers use for port scanning, and how it relates to actually doing these handshakes. So, Chris, you actually mentioned Nmap in the last episode. Can you show me what that would look like when we do a port scan?
Oh, 100%. And I think that's a great way to learn it as well. So if any of the viewers want to, you can bring up Nmap and a copy of Wireshark, and you can follow right along with what we're going to be doing here. So I actually encourage you to do that, get you some hands-on. So let's go ahead and flip over to my screen. Okay, so right now I just ran two different scans in Nmap, and one I just did dash small s capital S, so that's basically a stealth scan, if you will. And then the second one that I did was a full connect scan, so ST capital T there. All right, and so we can see. So again, why is this important for hackers? We can see the ports that are available. We can see that these are TCP ports. We can see their state, whether they're open. After this, what someone like you, Ben, can do is say, hey, now I know what doors are open on that system and how I can begin to further to execute an attack or find an exploit that I can run against it. All right. So, but understanding that has a lot to do with knowing how TCP works. So let's do this. I went ahead and ran this scan and I captured it with Wireshark while running it. Okay. And I didn't give it any specific port numbers in the command. I just said, hey, full connect, go ahead, and it usually rips through the top 1,000 ports. So I'm going to come over here to Wireshark. All right. So let me bring this in. See all the green, the bright green packets that you see here? These are all SYNs. And in my profile in Wireshark, in this point of view that I have, I like to paint my SYN packets bright green so they jump out at me. Right. So if I ever see anything like this happening on my network, if you're on the blue team, if you see this, you know you're getting scanned. If you're an attacker, know that if you generate this, you could be observed, right, from either side. So let's do this. I noticed that one of those ports was open. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw up a TCP port at it as well. So let me just do 1900. That guy was open. Okay. So let's take a look at how this attack actually, or the scan actually works. So here's your first packet. All right. So SYN. I'm opening up TCP. If I come down to TCP flags, so here's our first SYN packet. This is just a knock on the door. Hey, opposite side, are you open? Are you listening to 1900? Can you accept another connection? I send you something called a sequence number. This is how I count data moving forward. This sequence number allows me to track every single byte that I send to you and allows you to acknowledge every single byte in the opposite direction using an acknowledgement number. Now, the first packet of a three-way handshake, the SYN, does not have an ACK flag set because I don't have an ACK number. That's why it's a SYN, not a SYN ACK yet. It's just a SYN. And just like we talked about in our first episode, Ben, remember options? So
Yeah.
in the SYN is when I send you all the options. I'm going, hey, Ben, here's my MSS. I want to use a window scale. Here's my, I can do selective acknowledgement. And, I can also do timestamps. So those are all TCP optional fields that are not necessarily required, but it's going to allow TCP to be more efficient in today's modern networks. So I send that to you. Now let's say, Ben, you're 4.1 here. You turn around and you say, hey, okay, first of all, I am listening on 1900. I saw the sequence number you sent. I added 1 to that value, and I'm going to ACK that number back to you. This is just echoing that number back to let me know, oh, Ben, you're there. You heard me. You got my sequence number. We're synchronized. This is a SYN ACK. Those are the two flags that are set. And then, Ben, you send me your options. Here's your MSS. You want to do selective acknowledgement. You're good with timestamps, and you're good with a window scale. What those options are, we'll get to. It's more important, just so you know, those are exchanged in the SYNs. Final packet of the handshake is this acknowledgement. I'm just letting you know, hey, I got your SYN ACK. I'm ACKing this number back to you, so you're aware that I heard you. And let's wrap this up and get to work. That's a basic 3-way handshake. Now, since I was doing a connect scan with Nmap, I don't actually want to use this connection. I just wanted to know if you even have that port open. So that's why immediately after that, Nmap is going to send a reset and say, back off, guys. We don't need to actually use this. Go ahead and shut that connection down. That's how that scan works.
So you not only doing the 3-way handshake, the fourth one is just to like finish the handshake, to pretty much to say there's just no longer would need the connection. So that's why there's 4. But if you're actually connecting to it and it was an Nmap, that last line wouldn't exist pretty much.
That is correct. That is correct. Unless I had an application that was acting real weird, right?
Right.
Opening up connections that it wasn't using. But there's basically 2 ways to tear down a connection. One is to use a fin. So that's when you'd see this fin flag here. And that's almost like when you're talking on the phone to somebody and you say, hey, Ben, I'll talk to you later. And you say, okay, later. And then you both agree to hang up the phone. That's a fin. A reset is like, bam, hanging up the phone. Just, I'm done with you.
So you're pretty much calling someone, hanging up the phone on them. You're saying, is this phone number exist? You hang up on him.
Yep.
To pick up, you hang up the phone on him.
That's it.
Okay, very cool. So this is just, we haven't talked about what a PCAP file looks like. We haven't looked at Wireshark. This is going to be the next episode. But I know in the last episode we did together, we pretty much talked about what the handshake looks like. And, afterwards we chat about it. Let's just show it. Let's just show using Nmap what that looks like. And we'll do an even bigger episode on it later. But this is a good example to show if you're a hacker. A lot of my followers are into recon, a lot of bug bounty hunters. So if you're doing bug bounty hunting, you're doing recon, you're doing port scan, and you don't understand what these scans mean, just looking at open ports, this is what's happening in the background.
That's it. You got it.
All right, we'll come back for next episode to look at actually what a PCAP file looks like in details. I just know we skipped a little bit of the basics of Wireshark. We'll cover that, I promise. So if it didn't make sense, that's okay. We'll come back and we'll do a whole episode on that sometimes down the road.